amazing.
Oh my gosh,
She does the most beautiful work.
I know, I love her.
How long have you been there?
I just started this like semester, so but I'm doing it next semester too.
Yeah, good.
So,
She gonna pay you next month.
Okay.
well, I'm gonna use it for the class credit next semester,
Okay.
so I'll be okay.
Okay.
We're finally ready. We're set up. Life is good. I can download, or I mean record today, so that's cool.
Oh, good.
Okay. We're ready. We got it going. We can record today's class. I'm gonna try to still put up a video like normal because I think that is probably easier for you all to follow than like chaos of class, and it'll be shorter than 4 hours. But you'll at least have that, so you'll have an extra resource. So you should have this PDF downloaded. And I think you all also missed this, but I haven't looked at your progress 2 sets yet, but I think some of you put your casework on your FF&E. Like I said, your FF&E is things that move. So like your chairs and your tables, things like counters and casework, or anything that's attached to the floor or the wall is on your work set 1. That's the same as like walls and floors and ceilings. So it's like building components. So make sure that your casework is on work set 1. And then we're also going to turn on our FF&E work sets in our interior elevations. Well, with the caveat, that's only if you have things like your hand sanitizer or soap. If that's on your FF&E, you want to see it here. You could put that on work set 1. That's kind of like a gray area. If it's something that's like a hand sanitizer dispenser is like on the wall, but you take it off the wall, like it's not built, it's not like concrete stuck with the building for forever. That's kind of up to you if you want to put it there or not, but we want to see those things in your interior elevations. So if you have casework, sinks, counters, or something on the wall like a hand sanitizer, soap, or paper towel dispenser, we want to see that. So do whatever you need to do to make those visible in your elevations. And then some of you also have your elevations still like this. So if you do, make sure that you pull in your prop extents to your walls and your ceilings. We don't want to see through your ceiling or the sides of your walls. And then some of you are asking me again about the pattern on your walls. So if you remember during the last week, we applied that gyp pattern to your ceilings, but because we did that, now it's also showing on your walls because they're the same gyp material. So if you want to get rid of this, you can select your wall, and then you can right click, override graphics in view by element. And then we're just going to turn off the foreground material. So you're not hiding the wall, you're just turning off that pattern in this view, if that makes sense. Let's say, okay, so now my wall is still there, but the pattern is gone. So I'm going to do that over here on this one too. Select my wall. If you're having trouble selecting it, you can hover by the edge of your wall and click tab. Right click, override graphics in view by element, and uncheck foreground visible.
So I like got the pattern off all my walls, but like my door has the pattern. So
that would make me guess that your door for some reason is like inside your wall.
Like do this complex, like I want to bring it down so I don't see what's in the same country.
yeah, I
I thought so, but it doesn't give me that little arrow.
One of them is
Like if I just let's go through it.
because
If you turn it to
if the wall was
right side.
new construction and the door was existing, then you would like
Or sorry, building.
Yeah.
Are you in?
No, because I wanted to, I was gonna try to place also what is.
You still just wanted to show there. Because it's like walls, doors, floor, ceiling.
So it's.
Yeah. And then show on everything.
I thought you were saying that.
No, we just don't want to see like your chairs and stuff in here.
Where are my ways?
Okay. So you should see your casework in at least one of your elevations. I haven't placed any, so I'm gonna place some real fast. Let's see. Oh, and if anybody else is still using or is using the 2019 template, I apparently did not upload. I uploaded the circle elevation marker, but only in the 22 version. So there's also a circle elevation marker for 19 on Canvas now too.
What if you don't see any of the furniture?
In your elevations. You don't want to see furniture in your elevations, but you do want to see like your casework. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you like the scope box? Because I was gonna try to like place it in 3D, like you said.
It looks like your box is hidden maybe, because I don't see it. So reveal hidden and see if it's there in pink.
Is that just RH?
Yeah, maybe try this. I don't know if that's gonna be it. You have to unhide again. Let's see if that fixes it. You have to toggle out. No, that's not
It's
it.
just
Maybe uncheck those two boxes. I wonder if it's just like bigger. Maybe scroll out a little. Oh, wait, you're just in your 3D. Okay. To do that, you have to be on your plan, grab stuff, and then you have to use that little button. Because if you just go to like your overall 3D view, that's like everything. It doesn't give you the box.
Okay, thank you. And then I could put this in my
Mhm.
Oh my
Where did it go?
Sorry. I don't.
Oh. Hmm?
Exactly. It took me so many steel case files to find one.
Oh, now it's there.
Yes.
You could just upload that in the family.
Yes, but I do.
Yeah, but I wanted to be
I
better.
think.
Yeah.
When you name them over here, like,
Actually, but the one that I have.
yeah, but you like don't maybe.
The one that I.
But I know I had the problem, but it was like, whenever it asks you, like, if you want to change everything.
It didn't work now.
Well,
Mine is downloaded.
Did you take a?
Yeah.
Okay, some of you, I don't remember who it was. Somebody asked me about, I think it was Megan maybe. Somebody asked me about their sink wasn't showing up. My suspicion, sometimes when you place things like in this kind of view, when you're looking top down, things look right, but then when you come to your elevations, it's like not there, or you can't find it, or something's weird. A lot of times when that happens, it's actually, yeah, it's like being placed down in here or something. So it might be like inside of your casework. You might have to move it.
I have it clicked on my forklift and my elevation.
So then how else?
And like the dimensions are all the way up there.
Or like if you go.
So
in
it's
your
like
room
way up high. So
And go
um,
to your furnishings.
it's telling you that it's selected. It's just probably like above your view, if that makes
Like the
sense.
work set
So
that you have to pay
scroll over
for.
here in your property.
No, it's just nothing.
Yeah, but make sure they're all visible.
I also
They're
just
all
did a
at the
random
bottom.
sync.
Oh,
But that's
nope,
why
you
it's
have a
2D.
2D.
Okay,
Yup,
all right, I'm
Yeah.
about to download Stone.
you're good.
You make sure your furniture is visible.
Um,
And then you don't have to go into each drawing and like hide it in some of them.
I'm gonna pick a different counter. So like that one.
Mine was, it was not.
If you use like one of the 2D ones that comes from Revit, it will show in a plan, but it's not a 3D model, so it won't show in your like elevations and
We should
stuff.
just use one, I should just get one from the Revit.
You can use one for Revit. They just have 2D and 3D. If you grab a 2D, it won't show up in your elevations.
I don't know what occurred in mine, because like this whole cabinet did not copy to mine. Like
No.
it's just. Oh, can't you just like suspend it down top? So I'm gonna try again. No. So they're all gonna go to copy.
Do you think that I should just try and delete the one that I
just
have
went back to
now?
my tablet.
Huh?
Still there.
I was saying like tonight, like, cause I downloaded it from
Me,
Stu,
and
but then he doesn't get it.
Like
until,
the-
This whole
And it's
thing
like,
is
nothing
Should
showing
I
up
even
in
go
my
outside?
my elevations.
That's gonna be something else other than the model. Like the model's probably not the
Like the
problem.
walls.
Hang on and we'll cover all together some reasons that might be, because I have a feeling there's a lot of other people.
And like she also dropped me a little, so like.
Yeah.
It's gonna be done
Yeah,
like
but
that.
you know, I think this, like honestly, you probably shouldn't.
But I was like, dang.
Mine wasn't working, but
So here's something that may be causing, I have a feeling this will be causing some of you all problems. So let me go to 100. Okay, so if you come to your enlarged view where we have our markers placed, our elevation markers, you can select whichever one it is you're looking at right now. So like I'm looking at my casework elevation, I'm gonna select this one that says 4. It'll show you the extent of the view. So like we know left to right when we're looking at the elevation, right? Like we know wall to wall, but it's also showing me how deep. So you see that like blue line, not the dashed one, but this one. That's showing me like how close to the wall my elevation is. I'm gonna back it up a little because it's cutting my casework and I want to see the front of my casework. I don't want to see like, you know, inside my casework. So if you're having a problem like that, or like Cassidy was just saying she's not seeing hers, it might just be too close to the wall. You might have to back it up a little bit. But then you also might have to drag your like extent further back so that you're like capturing the whole thing. You know, like once you move it, you're gonna have to pull that back too. And Megan, I know your sync was 2D. If you are also having that problem, like sometimes when you place things in a floor plan, looks right in the floor plan, you come to your elevation, things are wonky. You might have a sync that's like down here. A lot of times models, especially if they're not from Revit, if they're like something you downloaded off the internet, a lot of times they'll come in at 0 feet for whatever reason. So like even though your sync will never be on the ground at 0 inches, sometimes they come in that way. So if you see it in plan, but you don't see it in your elevation, chances are it's just like on the ground inside another model, and you might need to just like bring it up higher.
And then, oh, my elevation from level says 0, 0.
Yeah, so that's saying it's coming in like at the floor.
So that's why I'm not seeing it properly too.
Well, is it casework?
It's,
What is it?
it's this, the same.
Yeah, so you better bring that up. Sometimes it's easier to
Yeah, like I forgot how.
so you select what you want to see in the view, so it's not select very quick, you know, that stuff, and then you put that in.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
So I'm gonna guess it's on a work set. Probably not the right one, because if it's on one that says not visible in all views, then it's not gonna show here. So go back to where you can see it. Are you going?
Yeah, I think.
Select it and you probably exit.
Instead of,
Remember that your cabinets, your casework, your countertops, anything that's attached is on work set 1. it's the same as walls and ceilings.
Oh, so then does everything in that room? Okay, never mind. I think
Oh,
I think I'm gonna.
So you all probably have more casework than this. I'm just gonna place this to use for our example. But you should be seeing your casework. Oops. Here in your elevation. Whichever of your elevations that looks like facing your cabinetry, your casework, that's gonna be our casework elevation. Typically in a project that would be like separate from our interior elevation, but we're just going to use this one because this is an elevation we already have. So what you will do, you will dimension your casework. So you're going to have like overall dimensions, like you're going to have the width, you're going to have the height of the cabinet, the thickness of the countertop. If your dimensions look like this, where they're small, so they're like on top of each other, you can click this blue dot that's on the dimension side, like the number side, and just drag it so that you can space them apart and see what the numbers are. So you'll have like overall dimensions of width and height, your counter, and then you'll also dimension your sink to the wall. So to do that, typically you dimension from the center. So like you can see when I hover over my sink, it has a line I can pick in the center of my sink. So I'm going to click on that and then come over to the wall. If you're having a hard time dimensioning to the wall, like right now it's not letting me grab it, that's probably a good indicator that you need to extend your crop view. Like you're probably not all the way to the wall. And remember that I think I said last week, we don't want dimensions that are any smaller than 1/8. So like right now you see that my, oh my gosh, my dimension to my sink says something 1/16, 2 feet and 9/16. That's not like realistic in the real world. Like again, a contractor cannot build something that, you know, this close. So I'm going to adjust that. You may need to adjust your casework a little bit. So really this wouldn't be floating like off to the side. All of this would really be, you know, over here by the wall, right? So now my dimension says 1/3, and that sounds pretty good. That's a nice number. It's not got like a big fractional decimal on the end. One other thing, when we're dimensioning to the center of something, you draw a line called a center line. So that indicates to a contractor who's looking at these drawings to build your building, just indicates that that's where he's measuring to, that it's not, you know, this other little piece over here. It's just saying to the center of this object. So to do that, you type either DL on your keyboard for detail line, or you can come up to annotate and then click detail line here. Your type of line you select, you can pick from the drop down. There's one that says center line. And it's just a particular kind of dash line that, you know, that's what that type of dash indicates. So that's the center line. So I'm going to draw it on the center. I'm going to pull it up here above my dimension. And then the last thing we do is add a symbol. It's called a center line symbol. It's like a little CL attached. So to do that, we're going to go to annotation symbol. You can either type AS on your keyboard. We already set that up before. Or you can come over to annotate and then the little checkerboard symbol over here. And we'll have to, I think we'll have to load it. Let's see. Nope, it's already loaded. So then once you're ready to place, you come to your drop down list on the side, your types. You'll select center line. And then you'll just place that up here at the top of your center line that you drew. It's your annotation symbols. So you can either type AS, which is a keyboard shortcut we already set up, or you can go to annotate symbol, and it's like the checkerboard over here. And then it will be in your types. It's already loaded in your template here. So while you probably have a little bit more on your elevation than mine is showing right now, that's essentially all you need to do for your elevation. You'll have overall dimensions. You'll have your width, your height of the cabinet, the thickness of your countertop, and then your sink dimension to the wall with a center line and a center line symbol.
How do you like make the dimension work to the walls? Like mine won't click.
So if yours won't click to the wall, if it's not like highlighting the wall over here, like mine's not right now, you get close to the wall, which you have to be really close. Like your mouse has to be on where you think it is. And you can push tab and it should glow blue and select. And then you can click. If it doesn't, that probably means that you need to drag your view out a little bit more. Your view is probably not going all the way to the wall face. Another thing I will say, if you have a dimension to something that's not on your view, so like I just dimensioned that to my wall, if I were to either move the wall further like out of my view, or if I adjust my crop, it will make the dimension go away because now that object's not visible for it to dimension to. So if I put my crop box back, it'll pull the dimension back. So if like your dimensions are disappearing or something, that's probably why.
Can you go over how you got the center line?
You're welcome. So I'll do that again. To draw the line, you can either type DL for detail line. I always like think draw line in my head when I'm typing it, but it's a detail line. Somewhere, I think it's under architecture, there's an option for model line. The symbol looks the same, but a model line and a detail line are not the same. So generally speaking, just avoid model line. There's not really many times you ever need that. So you go to detail line, and then you can see that my mouse will select the center of the sink. It will for probably most sink models. So I'll just click there, go up some. Oh, and see, I have the wrong type. It needs to be a center line. Oh, it is. Sorry, it's too short. So you can select your center line from your types up here. And then I'm going to pull it down as well, down here. You're welcome. And then for the symbol, you type AS, or you go to annotate symbol, and then it should be loaded down here in your types. And then you just click up here to place it at the top of your line. And then you can dimension either to the center of the sink or your line, which should be the same. And then over to your wall where you can hit tab and place your dimension.
Sometimes when you go to like click when the dimension pops up, then you like the number's there, and then you click and it disappears.
That's the same thing as your crop box probably not being right. So if it's like too close, sometimes you can select the object that's like just the tiniest bit out of your frame, essentially. But when the number disappears, that's just telling you that the thing you selected isn't in your view. So you probably need to pull your crop box out like a teeny tiny bit. Also, a good way to test that, you can turn off crop region visible down here. We still want to crop the view. We just don't want to see that frame that's doing the cropping. If you turn that off, and like, you should still see all those edges of your box, right? Because that should be like the face of your ceiling, the faces of the walls. If one of those edges goes away when you do that, that means that that face of that wall is not in your view. So like if my crop box was in here, and then I turned off crop region visible, that line goes away because there's no face of the wall there. So that's a good way to test to see like if the face of your wall is actually in your view or not. I think sometimes that box is misleading because it kind of makes you think like it looks right. It looks like all your walls are there. But then when you export to PDF, sometimes you'll see that your elevations suddenly like don't have edges. It's just because they need to be expanded.
Yeah, I cannot get my measurement. So
But if I place it on the counter,
It's tricky. You have to use the tab.
It's hard.
Oh,
And you
wait.
get used to like
Doing snatch.
like things that way. Yeah, you just gotta tab.
Oh, yeah, that's what I can't do either, so it's.
Thank you.
You can't dimension another like dimensions on your scene.
So this right
there.
Yeah, because right now you're dimensioning to like your end of your counter.
You might want to look there.
Yep. When we dimension things, to locate them in the room. So like the only thing we're locating right now is the sink. Because like when we just dimension these things, that's not telling the contractor where in the room to put them. When you're dimensioning the sink, you're telling the contractor essentially where all of this needs to be in the room. And you always want to dimension to other things that are like for sure set, like your walls. You know, like you don't want to dimension like, I don't even know, you wouldn't want to dimension your casework to like a table in the room, right? You know, everything needs to be to something that's like a set object. And make sure that you're saving as you go.
Oh, my wall thing, this finally popped up. Is this what we were looking for earlier?
I think so.
I really don't know what was happening here.
This is.
Yeah, I guess
I
it is. Yeah, see.
Oh, wait.
You'll have to do it by
I haven't.
you because the thing that you just like
Oh.
said, hide in view, so just like.
where is
So-
Or
Okay.
the like.
It's in here. Showing up in place.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I think I have to redo that again.
So this is essentially all we're doing for your casework elevation. Overall dimensions of your casework. Center line to dimension the sink to the wall. I want to make sure that you all have your wall base, anything else that's on the wall. You should probably have like a soap dispenser, paper towel dispenser, maybe a hand sanitizer, that sort of stuff. I don't know, you all might have like upper cabinets, dimension those the same way, just height and width. And then some of you said like you can't find a hand sanitizer model or a soap dispenser model. Don't worry too much about like finding something that looks right. I would either, for this assignment, honestly, I would probably draw one on here. You wouldn't do this in real life because you would need that model, but you can just draw like a rectangle with your detail lines and call that your soap dispenser, or, you know, call this your paper towel dispenser. And then we dimension those the same way. So if you have something on the wall like that, you would draw a center line. You would add your center line symbol, and then you would also dimension those to the wall.
How did you get the first one?
The first what?
The
The symbol is, go to annotate, and then the checkerboard symbol button way over here, or you can type AS if you set up your keyboard shortcut. And then that will bring up your types, and you select it here from your drop down.
Yeah.
And I always struggle with that.
I was like, it's just like literally. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's like all mentioned.
But like, you can't really help it from like the center line to like the edge of the.
Is it? It looks like it's supposed to be on the wall, maybe. Yeah, that's probably why, because you have that little thing in your.
I was gonna use like the cute.
Excuse me, to be the best practice or dimensions to. Look like you're grabbing the. I would just put it all over and you can use a line if you want and a line to the wall. You want to put which two dimensions? Yeah.
And how do I missed this, there are parts.
Center line, like the actual line part or the symbol. To draw a line, you can either type DL if you set up your keyboard shortcuts, or it's an annotate to line. And then you'll just draw a line from the center of your sink. Well, it's in this part. Are you sure it's in that model? Because a lot of times Showcase will show things like that, like even things in Excel, like things that they can actually come. Like when you open it in Revit, did you see? I have a feeling there's not one. You can just load a Revit.
They're all like super big.
I'm gonna use probably the one that says like maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did that one, but.
I was like, why is that so thick?
It's your line.
It's like the baseboard.
It's going back to
Mine.
sometimes it does that. Sometimes it does
I was like, that's
I don't
just,
know. Oh. It's like, mine's at least like 6 inches.
no, yeah, like it like hits, yeah.
Okay, you are seeing that.
Um,
Did you say
go to
that?
3D view.
Because I didn't have the check for it, I just.
Let me get it. Yeah.
So I have some furniture put in and some of it shows up on my elevations and some of it doesn't, but it shows up on my software plan or my FFP plan. Like this is what the FFP
You're
plan
not
looks
seeing
like.
the little box.
This is how far my elevation comes as well, but all it shows is the capital.
Is it set to your FFP work?
Or it would be now. Actually, it might be, but they're all set to the same one. It's like if this was.
I would say it's either that or it's
I have like.
can you confirm that it's a 3D model and not 2D? I would think.
Yeah, because this is the 3D.
Yeah. Did you like all views are in your?
But like scrolling out, you're gonna have to put a box.
She said it like the opposite.
Or,
Like you don't want to just dwelling.
no.
That's how I got mine show, but I did have to go. I got so up.
But I got them in my
I don't
elevation.
remember what little box. But that's like how I got it. And she clicked something.
And it's like not on the other.
And it's like your actual case surface.
Yeah. But these came with.
From where? Like here? You see that little cube with. Well, you can take them like along.
Yeah.
All the way to the. Sometimes models are set to like not display on different levels of display, so sometimes like it won't show.
No, I think.
And do I pull this one up?
Well, let me try.
Let me get this out.
All the way to the floor?
Yeah, okay, so but bring it over the whole.
Ellie, you can copy and paste.
Okay, now I have my.
Yeah, so I did that. It's like.
But now that you did that, you're gonna have to go into your.
3D view. Yeah. Just click.
Is this go on my?
How do you see it?
I would grab all of them. I don't think you'll need the other two, but
How are your most basic?
What
Should I give you to make the box?
Well,
No, don't.
you should.
No, like.
I mean, yeah, but like,
I just don't have to. So it'll help me get. Well, I just honestly turned on the.
But you never.
Nothing.
Are you sure?
Should I put a center one?
And just put.
Why
I don't know that.
It's not in your view. It's great like that. So deactivate your view and see if it can. Like, can you select it now? Yeah, you didn't draw me your view, so I just delete them and then activate your view as well.
No, so I tried using anti symbol
And then I don't think I put this on. So then when I get this new.
So like we're this one has.
Right, I guess this, I have no idea. It should be what it was.
So this one, like I said, if there's a thing in.
Oh, you're fine. I know more than that. I have no idea.
When I placed it that time, I placed it, like
I
just
say
placed it in
there's
that
that.
and I placed it in the, so like I attached the center of it to the center of this. And then I went into another elevation and just. So. But the last time I placed it in, so I don't know if that made sense.
Here's your elevation.
Yes.
So when you place it, the one cabinet does not have.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's the same thing as.
And then this one.
I think it's in the same thing.
What? I mean, I literally with this. I don't know, because it's like this. So I.
Well, the sync automatically is like.
So it's in that. Okay, I mean, that's how they. Yeah, unless.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. At least it's in your elevation. I don't know why else it just started. Unless for some reason.
No, it's, and it's.
No.
Fine.
Oh,
Like, I don't know, they don't.
Do you have anything on the detail?
okay. Is it not an and?
I don't know this, but it's
Well,
like,
that's FFC, right? And we don't want to see it.
oh, so it's just we let it go.
I have. Yeah, that was kind of a random question.
I'm trying to.
I totally missed where we were supposed to tag our pieces of furniture. And so my thing doesn't have a tag for furniture loaded. Okay.
So once you load something.
Is that something I have to
load it?
You can try, let's see what happens. Is that it?
And then, component.
Is that an
And then place
annotation?
it, and it should be the first thing that was loaded.
Item, it just says there's.
And then go back here. I think it'll, yeah. There you go. Easy. So you just type your type mark in a little box.
Okay.
Make sure all of them are there.
Okay, yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions right now? Does everybody feel comfortable with your elevation?
I'm confused on, so are the cabinetry, is all that going to be in the interior elevations page or the casework elevations page?
We're gonna leave it here
Okay.
on your interior elevation. So like a normal set, you would have 1,000,001 interior elevations, and those show things that are attached to the wall, just to locate them up and down and left to right. Typically, you don't have an elevation for like every single wall because you can say similar, like you might have 10 exam rooms and they're all exactly the same. So you'd have an elevation of one, but not all of them.
Right.
So then you would also have a new elevation for the casework And normally those would be separate just because your set is so big,
Okay.
but we're gonna use this one for our casework elevation. So we're gonna put our section on 580. That other sheet, normally you would also have your elevations there, but we're just only gonna put the section there.
Okay.
Good question. Oh, here's one other thing about your dimensions. So we want overall width, overall height. But you see right now I have these two. I have height of the cabinet and then thickness of the counter. I also want another dimension that is like the overall of all of that. So I'm gonna make a second one that comes out past it that shows me that whole height of everything. Does that make sense? So you want to show the height of those pieces, but then you also want to show the whole thing. Oh, thank you. What's fast?
Well, I can only do the one because I only have up.
Oh, gotcha. So really like what this 3 foot is saying is that the top of the counter is 3 feet above the floor. So it's like overall of everything, but it's because it's that height. So you'll have a dimension for like individual components, like the cabinet and the counter, and then one for the whole thing. So those are only dimensions you need of like, you'll never need a dimension for this project. You don't need to dimension like doors and drawers or anything like that, just the
Do you want
pieces.
an individual dimension of like our cabinets or that's like a sort of like?
Do you mean like with an upper cabinet? Let me place an upper cabinet and then I will talk through that because that's a good question. Okay, so say that your casework is more complicated. You've got multiple items, you've got upper cabinets. You would dimension each cabinet. So like I'm gonna add to this dimension, I'm gonna add on this other cabinet. Oops. And then we also want a dimension that's the overall width. So it should be something like that. Like if you had 3 cabinets, then you would have one more dimension here, and then you would have a dimension for the whole thing.
So it actually won't even let me load in the center line symbol.
What does it say when you try?
It says that. I know that when I did the symbol, it would work.
It's not gonna let you. So, actually, put it up higher. So depending on where your symbols go, or sorry, your symbols depend on how busy the rest of your elevation is. So like if I only had the base cabinets, it would be fine to put my little symbols here, but I got a lot going on in the middle now. So just for like graphical clarity, you can pull them up here. That's fine too. There's not any like hard or fast rule where your symbols have to be. You just want everything to be like legible so they can clearly tell what's happening or what your intent is.
So mine are hard, like real cabinets, I don't think I can just like shelving.
Okay.
So do I need to do a center line for that or just?
So you don't need to do a center line for cabinets. We do a center line for the sink or things like your soap dispenser. I think typically we do that because, again, like your casework, any cabinetry is the same as like building components. So you think about it like walls and ceilings, like we have hard dimensions for those. Like the casework has to be 5 foot 6 inches, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what we tell the contractor. However, things like sinks or soap dispensers, there may be a little give and take in like the brand, you know, so I may call out a certain size for like the basin of the sink, but the overall dimension of the sink could be like a little bit different depending on like what brand they buy. So we use the center line for that. So because we really just care about where it's aligned with the center. We can't necessarily dimension like the sink itself. So we don't have to dimension things like cabinets to a center line because we can give a hard like width or height. You just want to dimension center lines for like accessories essentially or sinks. If you have upper cabinets, you will add to this dimension string that's calling out each individual, you know, the base cabinet, the counter. You'll just add to that for your upper cabinets. So I'm going to add the distance between my counter and my upper cabinet and then the width, I'm sorry, the height of the upper cabinet. Clearly that dimension is crazy. So that means these need to come down. Can't even see what's happening. Okay, so that's like a crazy number. We're gonna pull that down or really up to 2 feet. And you can kind of think about like your multiple dimensions on the side. You can kind of think about those as being like parentheses in math, like they go from more specific to like bigger, you know? So we'll have like each item and then we'll have overalls. If your dimensions are like mine and they're running over your title, you can just scoot your title down and then pull the whole thing up to realign across again. One other thing for your elevations, this is super easy. Wherever you have a door in your elevations, which I guess you should just have one, then you also want to tag that door. So you'll just type TG for tag. You don't want the leader, and you just click to place your door tag in the middle.
You said what, TT?
TG for tag.
Oh, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other elevation questions?
I just want to go, all my dimensions have been like reasonable, but this one is saying that the distance between the wall and the curtain is 2 inches when it is not.
Are you?
I don't, and like all my other ones are like normal, like they have normal dimensions, but this one, I just keep redoing it and it just keeps saying 2 inches, which makes no sense. That's super weird.
See, that's what I was about to ask. Do not activate it in your view, so you're measuring on this sheet. So on your sheet, that really is like 2 inches in real life.
Gotcha.
Okay, you're gonna have to, yeah, go deactivate. I think it's there. If you can just delete it and then go into your view.
This one, the elevation, I still can't mess with it. So I'll get to the door once we figure it out. But
Let me search for it again. I'll go over it. There you go.
like left and sheet and reopen.
Hey, what?
It's forward.
How long is our over? Monday, Tuesday.
And everything was said.
I think that'd be Friday,
yeah.
I need,
Yeah. I love that. You know, because we have clocks.
Whoa. Wow. That was stupid on there.
Should I say yeah?
So like,
When you celebrate
Is that really a break?
this Saturday and Sunday, like that is also forward for the students. That's why I think like I really feel like I just need to get it done when I can.
No, we should push it back.
Oh, I don't know.
That's what it's due. I'm really not in my head.
I'm still working on my. Like I have some things that's like. Now we're.
I know, it's not.
This event, I wanted to. I want to do it. I have women's health. Are you? So if I have questions,
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't gotten that far yet, but I'm like not working.
Yeah.
I just. Yeah. And lying.
Like this semester, I feel like not that much has been done, but I also feel like the stress.
Yeah. It's like I get caught up on one thing and then I have to start on another, and then it's like prioritizing what's more important.
I know,
And
I'm
like,
so annoyed.
like I always get it done, but then I was like, oh, worry about something that I know I'll get it done.
Yeah.
It's just like the when am I gonna have time to like work on it completely?
Yeah.
Because like, you know,
I cannot wait to go home and be asleep, you know?
I don't
It's just be asleep. As soon as I walk through the door, I'm gonna
like collapse.
That's
in my
Friday.
body.
You
It's
We're gonna crash.
No, I think
Yeah, that's where I want
What about this?
No, that's just a point.
Oh my gosh, you have.
Ooh, Calvin's thought about adding that line next to it.
I love
It's so
it.
nice.
It's so.
See, I was like debating between getting the blue or the white, but I was like, if the blue is ugly, it would be nice for me to white.
It's so.
The blue is so
Yeah,
pretty.
I feel like I did now that the 13 is out though, I feel like I need to wait for the next one to get it.
Really?
Well, it's shattered, so I.
Because like, I'm not getting a new phone right
I
now.
didn't do it.
I have to get a
I
new
think
one.
I'm gonna
I don't
get one,
know,
like-
I don't really want to get the 13, but I have to get the
I was
Yeah, I
gonna
have
get
the 11 now.
I have
Well,
the
it ended up
10.
being like
We need
three, so
three.
What is the?
Oh, your phone?
Yeah.
The 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my mom was like, you're getting the 13.
Yeah, I think
What?
so.
I got the one.
Dude, I know nothing about it.
I have the 13, but I was trying to get the Pro Max, but it's not
Krisha, do
free.
you have this
It's
little?
like, no, it's
Light bulb?
the free one is the small one.
Did that work?
Yeah.
it's a real hidden element. Like, even though I was showing it earlier.
So like,
Yeah.
and then select your title.
Whoa, whoa, where? Hold on, no.
But mine, I have to like, you tell me 6 and it'd be like $10.
Type RH or.
Oh, maybe because I have I have the one that's like 500 gigabytes, so maybe that's why it's like. Just for, I should just do the, okay, I'm gonna ask her. Because I don't want to get.
But they used to-
They just said that they're small, but
Yeah.
really-
I usually just like go through the high group, the
Oh, it's bigger than the pro, it's bigger than the.
Now we know.
What?
Yeah,
thank
Oh my
you.
God.
You're welcome.
So you
Okay.
have to trade in the Pro Max, the level.
We're gonna move on to your casework sections. So, oh, hang on. You should have your interior elevation with your casework. Typically, so like if we look at that PDF, typically you would have a lot of sections. So for this project, I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different sections for this project. Obviously, you're not going to draw 9. You would draw one for where you have a different section everywhere so that every possible section is covered. You are going to pick one. So like mine would be the same. I would have a section that would go through this upper and this lower, but they're the same. So I would only have to have one. You're going to pick which one you want to do. To create your elevation view, we're going to go to view and then section. And then you will draw it this way. This works exactly like your elevation view. So this line is telling me how deep the section is going. I don't really need it to go that deep. And I also kind of want to scoot it over. You can choose if you, so go ahead.
It's just going to the middle.
There's not any specific place in your casework it needs to go. I'm gonna put my sink in my casework. So to see my sink, I'm gonna set it a little bit behind the sink so that I see it. Because I don't wanna like cut or like faucet or whatever. There's not any hard or fast like rule to where you place it. It just depends on what you're trying to see. And then I don't need all this extra depth this way. So I'm gonna pull it in a little tighter, like our elevation. And then the direction that this marker is pointing, like it's telling me my section's going that way. So it's like I'm looking at that half, looking this way. If you, depending on which way you're trying to look, we could also turn it to look this way. And you can do that with your little guy up here. Or I'm sorry, you can drag it, I think. Oh, sorry, it's these little arrows on the side. If you need to flip it. We're creating our casework section. So you just go to view and then section and draw your marker.
And just pull your little, like, your head and tail far enough that they're not like on top of your dimensions and stuff. You just want to have room for everything to show. You're going to find the example on the PDF that best matches what you have. So this one right here looks like it would match pretty well for what I've just selected. I've got my sink, my base cabinet, and an upper cabinet. I'm not grading you all on like your construction knowledge. We just want to use the tools and get familiar with making a section. You're going to look at the PDF just to like copy it essentially for your section. You might have to kind of mix and match, like you might have to pick a base cabinet on one and upper cabinet on the other, but just find the information you need from the PDF. So once you've got your section marker, we're going to select it. I don't want this to be a building section. I want it to be a detail section.
Every time that it says none of the created elements are visible in the elevation. So it won't let me place in section.
Are you working in the template or no?
The your elevation.
Oh,
wait.
Because I wonder if, are you in the template that was from Canvas?
no, I just wasn't copying things from the person.
That might be why it's
It was
telling
me.
you that.
It's because you made the section on your paper and not in the video.
It's here, like.
So all you have to do is, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's just when it gets to that error, it's saying there's some setting that's preventing it.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Like you say, please finish.
Yeah.
So click DB. And then
God, I'm sitting here like trying to push it around.
I was like doing stuff in hospitals, like, and it was really like, you're gonna make an original. And I didn't.
This thing, did you go home after school?
Yeah, I did, but it took me forever because I had to like edit a few things on here and then I tried to.
Does yours not work? Well, no, mine I can't.
But I was just like,
Mine doesn't
And I'm in the.
okay, well, it actually came out right now. I forgot.
Mine's just like that.
I think that'll be a
I am.
let's push this, see if there's any like wild difference.
I don't know. Wait, I need like a toilet.
I'll read it.
And then probably some.
Whoa.
Oh, maybe some eggs.
We
and
won't
There's
necessarily
some
be like
stuff for the
trails,
weekend, like I'm
because
probably
you're
gonna
gonna
get an option for
just
stuff on Sunday. For this Monday.
I mean, I'll have to like.
The translation and stuff for the
Normally
weekend.
it would have to
because
be
I'm
Does she leave
So
on
I'm
Sunday?
assuming we need to
Yeah.
drag this onto the sheet.
So just like we renamed all of our other views when we created them, we're gonna do the same thing because it's gonna default to like section 1 will be the name.
I think it popped up and said, do I need to synchronize with central?
It's just reminding you to save. That's all that box is.
It says around, what do you want, so should I put?
Synchronizing with Central is this little button, the save button.
Okay, it just popped up and said that, that's right.
Yeah.
It pops up like every 15 minutes, just as a reminder.
It's, you have to go.
Okay, so I'm gonna rename this and I'm gonna set it to a different scale. So the easiest way for me to do that is to select the view here where I created it. So I've got it selected. And now I can change its properties easily. I'm gonna set it to 1 inch.
Because it's detail section.
Yes, but some of them don't have detail. So just leave it building. Oh, you have it. Yep. Okay, yep, you're good. Cool, thank you. So you'll select it. You'll change the scale to 1 inch is 1 foot, 0 inches.
Wait, what?
You just select your view here. Select it on your, where you drew it. select it, change the scale, it's the very top line to 1 inch. And then I'm gonna scroll down. I'm gonna rename the view name. Remember, we have those 2 different names, like a username and a screen name. The view name is going to be, let's see, what room are we in? Exam 110, or whatever your exam room is. Casework section. And then the title on the sheet is going to be just casework section. So make sure that you rename your view, just like we renamed all of our other views. Oops, sorry.
Called section 1 on the actual sheet.
Yep. View name is going to be exam 110 or whatever your exam room is, casework section. Title on sheet will be casework section. Sorry.
Fine.
I wish these were a little higher. I guess there's not really room for that.
A little bit.
My head's in
Oh,
your own
I
way.
would keep mine on the building.
I don't have to tell you, but I did.
You will change the name. You have to change both. We don't want it to just be section 1. That's like its default, very basic name. View name is like its actual name in your browser. It's like a username. Every view can only have one unique name. Like you can't have 2 views name the same thing. It's like a username. You can't have somebody else's username. However, title on sheet is just like how its name displays when you place it on the sheet. So view name, your exam room number, casework section. Title on sheet is just casework section. Just like we had interior elevation on the sheet, but then it was like exam room 110 west or whatever else.
Well, we hide. You guys hide the crop box.
Oh, yes, sorry. So once you have your section properties set like you want them, you renamed it, you changed the scale, we're going to place it on our 580 sheet. So I'm going to open a 580, 1 inch. We're going to drag it on to 580. So it's, did yours come in super long?
Yes, okay.
So a lot of times sections don't pay attention to the right walls, like our elevations. A lot of the time they come in like this, which is really annoying, but you're just going to crop it just like we did our elevations. So we want to show the wall that our casework is attached to. And then on the other side, we just want to pull it in here to the casework. And then we don't want to see our ceiling, so we're going to cut that off. And we don't want to see our floor. We want to see the edge of the floor, but we don't want to see, you know, the extent of the floor. Once you get your crop box lined up like this, we're going to turn the crop box off. So you're going to say, yes, I still want to crop the view, but I don't want the crop region to be visible. If I say, if I uncheck the wrong one, if I uncheck crop view, then it's going to put all that other stuff back.
We both have, this view is already placed on sheet A180 interior elevation.
Did you place it down here or no? Is it, do you see that whole section on the sheet?
Like that, like where.
Not just the marker, but the actual view? No?
It changed my name on that to the casework section.
What do you mean that thing? Like the
On
marker?
Interior elevations on A180, my drawing now says casework section.
You probably selected the wrong, you probably selected this view instead of the marker.
So should I?
You'll just have to change it back to the right one. Like, yeah, because you're. I guess that's because it's or because you are like you're not.
Like this.
What do you read?
But I don't know then when I bring this over. it's still-
I think it's section 1.
This.
You know, you need to come up here and change the name.
I saw all this.
Like it was there.
But like, what is soft?
Right over here.
Yeah.
Oh, why is it? You read the wrong thing too. That's what you did. It's telling you this is our new system. She said, you make this way, you need it.
Yeah, do you pee on your wedding day? I'm just gonna show up in leggings.
You had selected your whole. We're good.
My section, like where I drew it, it was there and I didn't change anything and now it's just like not there anymore. Like I drew it right through here. And it still exists because I have it here. But I just don't know where it went.
Interesting. Somehow. You could reveal it there.
And I checked the visibility graphics too, and I don't have anything unchecked. So I just have no idea.
Can you select, don't like open it, just select your section. So that's weird too. Normally it would tell you at the reference sheet, it would tell you like the markers on the marker. Like, you know, that's just important.
And like it was there when I changed it to the detail view.
Is it when you like mouse back here? Because that's when it applies to the settings. If that makes sense. Like when you change stuff up here, it doesn't apply to like. So that we change it to.
Like, you're just like, go have it, something like this. And she like implied you have a spot there. Yeah, so I mean, I've always implied that I've had a spot there, but
Can
like,
you just?
I'm happy they're still having a conversation.
Yeah.
You're sad.
What was the last thing you did?
Send me my job offer. Send me the job offer now. There. I just wanted to take it, like, ball finger for it. I would reach out. No. I mean, I'm still just chilling. You're chilling.
I think I was timing for it. So, but that's all still there.
I just want to make sure you did. Honestly, I would try again, but I think it's in like the orange one, right?
Those are,
Yeah, I have no idea. Should I just delete it?
If you don't care, I would do it. Since you haven't like, done anything on it. If you had like already finished it and we were trying to figure it out, then you can create like a symbol, which just means like another tag that it's
Mhm.
You can make a symbol tag.
This is using PowerPoint now. Sorry.
What should I do? It was here up till this point, so we'll see if it goes away again. Okay, so.
What option? I know, like, I'm not sure. Ooh, okay. There's this really good twirly that,
Okay, make sure you change
that
the
is so
scale
good.
and the type.
And,
Does everybody have their section placed on 580? Does everybody have their section on 580? We've got it created and placed. Since mine came in giant and I cropped it, I'm also gonna pull in this little tail because I don't want that title way out there. Okay. Sometimes you will also notice things that have gone funky when you're in your section. So like right now I see that my countertop has a backsplash and my backsplash is like in the wall. So if you see stuff like that, you can just clean it up here. I'm going to align my backsplash with the wall. Okay, so here's my suggested like easiest way to create sections. There are a lot of different ways that people choose to annotate their sections. They all look the same in the end. It's just different ways of working. My preferred way of working is to start drawing on top of these items with build regions and detail lines. And then at the end, when I'm done, I just hide the casework behind it. Because if you like move your casework a little bit as things shape up as the project goes on, even though the section stays exactly the same, sometimes you start to see like things kind of moving and being funky behind your section. So I just like to draw on top of it and then hide it so that my section stays nice and clean until the end of the project and I don't have to like constantly come back and move things. Or also if you like dimension your actual casework instead of your filled regions and your lines, if you like change something, it'll start deleting your notes and your dimensions on your section. So I like to just draw it so that I don't have to worry about things disappearing or changing. I just draw it and it stays that way. So you will reference the PDF. Oops. If you see notes like, for example, this one that's most similar to mine, if you see things like SS1 or PL1, that's just referring to material types that we had in this project. We had solid surface counter and plastic laminate finish on the casework. You don't need to worry about that. And I'm also not worried that you like perfectly copy the notes. Just put a couple notes on there that are fairly generic. I just want to see that you can place a note on there. So you might say something like hardware, refer to specifications, or adjustable shelf. But beyond that, like I'm not worried that your notes are so particular. You will also, I'm not worried as well that your dimensions line up. Like you should have dimensions in the same place as their dimensions here. But if your cabinet is 2'10" and not 3 foot, that's okay. Just have the same dimensions in the same place. So the way I created these, I drew these this summer. I just have like all of these different patterns are just hatches, just like we made your floors and stuff. So they're just hatches. I've got one for plywood that's like a universally understood pattern for plywood. You can assign a pattern to your countertop if you want, if you had like solid surface countertop or quartz countertop or whatever. Really, I think those are going to be the only two like patterns you need. I think they're going to be loaded in your project, but we'll see. If not, you can pick something else. You can pick a different like drafting pattern. So really all you're going to do is go to annotate region. You will draw your lines. So, oh, sorry, I was looking for the PDF. Typically, things like casework are made out of 3/4 inch plywood. So most of your like edges of things are just going to be 3/4 inches. So like this is 3/4 thick wood. That's probably like 1/2 inch. That's 3/4.
The countertop is 3/4. Again, it's not necessarily that you all have to be like exactly on those dimensions, but if you're trying to copy, generally things are gonna be 1/2 or 3/4 inch. So we're just gonna make boxes that size. So I'm in my field region. I'm gonna come down here. I'm gonna draw a 3/4 of an inch box. I'm gonna say okay. And then I don't have the plywood hatch loaded in here, so I'm just gonna say wood 1. And the wood patterns are typically like a wavy line. Might be able to. Oh, we can load it. Okay, let's load the plywood hatch. So pick one of your wood field region types. We're going to go to edit type. And we're going to set it up just like we set up your floor pattern types. We're going to click in foreground fill pattern. Click that little 3-dot box. And then when this box pops up with your patterns, we're going to scroll down to plywood. And you'll click OK. And now you should see plywood as your foreground fill pattern. And you'll click OK again. And now I've got that plywood pattern in my field region. So you're just going to keep drawing that way. You're just going to keep creating boxes. Remember, if it's plywood, it's 3/4 inches, or sometimes 1/2 inch, like the door is probably 1/2 inch. Oops. And you'll just keep going that way to match your section. A word of advice: when you're ready to dimension, I would go ahead and hide, like say I'm ready to dimension my cabinet. Then to make sure that I'm not dimensioning to the cabinet model, to make sure that I'm dimensioning to my field region, I'm just going to hide my cabinet. You should have all of your regions there on top of it. And then I'll dimension just to make sure that my dimensions are to what I drew and not to the model, so that if you move or delete or change the model, it won't change your section.
Thickness is what makes it bigger.
You just have to change your line type. So to do that,
I was saying like when you made the field region, it's big.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm highlighting that wrong.
when you do that, you can change your line type up here, right here. So if you want it thinner,
No, I don't think so.
when you're drawing your region, it's thicker. Or
Like this box, so you see how this is thick? Is this the right thing that I'm supposed to write?
the counter's not gonna be plywood probably, unless you have laminate on it.
So what's this, where is that?
I was drawing on the top of my top. cabinet.
Here?
Yep. If you don't like how thick your lines are, you can change that line.
Yeah.
My section is not putting through the casework.
So you probably need to scoot it. So go back to your elevation. Select your marker. Let's look at your, does it need to scoot that way maybe? Maybe scoot it closer to the wall. Oh, you did the same thing to set your viewport in. So with this like old your title. Hide it.
Your computer is like, I know it's running on this.
Maybe click the whole viewport. Yeah, there. Nope, not activate into it, just select it. nudge your. See if that helps. Oh, wait. But continue. I'm thinking your casework is up here.
No, it's here. My casework is right here.
Yeah, but I was thinking like on the small size of things. I see.
It's just looking at it, but it's not cutting it inside and it's on casework, so.
I think it is cutting inside, right?
Well, then when I select this, it looks like that.
That's the cabinet, like in the background. So come back to your elevation. Select your marker, see how deep this is, pull it in a lot closer and you won't see the stuff in the background.
What's this?
I would pull it like to the end of that cabinet, yeah. Now go back and you won't see the stuff like behind that cabinet.
Okay.
What's this?
Like the way that this cabinetry is like it's two in like one form. That's about to still pay. And it's acknowledging it in the casework as two separate things, but they're like.
They're just multiple. I guess I don't understand what the casework is actually like, but yeah. I mean, there's two models. Is there a problem with doing two models?
No, I just like, it's just not cutting in half, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, most of the time when you cut stuff, there's not anything inside to see. Like they're not modeled that way.
Okay, so it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because like when I cut through this casework, the Revit casework is what I place, like that just comes with Revit. Some of it kind of has some like inside pieces, but see how I'm cutting it, but all I see is like,
Yeah.
you know, there's not like inside pieces to most of the models. They're not modeled like they're actually constructed in real life. Yeah, that's why we have to draw on top. It would be nice if they were made that way and you could just make a section and it was there. But
Okay. Why are you good actually? What's that? What do we use?
That looks great. That's nice.
Tortellini.
I'm so hungry. I have like, it's been such a busy week. I haven't gone grocery shopping like at all.
I relate.
I have been busy. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I
It's
am-
toasted fruit.
Stop, I love toasted
I'm
sugar.
down bad right now.
That's not even a bad sweet thing.
I think I'm just sick of it because it's like all I've been eating. For social dinner, like toasted sugar. Yeah, and sleep for dinner.
I know the day we got cancer, that was the only thing that.
What the heck? Where did I put it?
I like didn't eat anything else the rest of the day. Like I totally forgot about eating. I was like, wait, I ate literally, and I was like, am I so hungry?
One meal. It's starting to not.
So this is going to be the only extent of this week's project progress set is going to be your elevation and your section. Those are the only two additional things that we'll be doing with the next progress set. I would like for you all to stay here and work a little longer because I have a feeling you're going to have more questions because I know this is a little more complicated. I know also several of you asked about having time to work with your studio group. So you are welcome to do that right now, but I would prefer for you to stay and not leave. I am going to be unavailable this week. I'm going to be traveling tomorrow through Thursday. I will do my best to reply to messages, but I probably won't respond as quickly or for a couple days maybe. So I would like for you all to get as far as you can today because I know that you're going to have questions and I just don't want to leave you all hanging, trying to figure it out on your own.
Are you going somewhere fun? Where you going?
My best friend lives in Denver, so I'm flying there tomorrow morning. She's picking me up at the airport and we're driving to Bryce Canyon in Utah. So we're gonna go hiking this weekend and then we're just gonna spend the rest of the week hanging out in Denver.
That's so fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a compulsive like notification checker. So I will be checking.
I need a lot of help, I think.
I'm happy to help.
I didn't want to give you all a whole lot more like an agenda this week.
I lost you.
I love
I really don't. I don't really have anything finished just to add to this. I mean, like, I've got things for others.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
It's just kinda like, are you trying to like,
Huh?
I get what
like me,
you
like,
mean.
check out what we.
We can do that. Yeah, sure. So it would be like flat against the wall.
I haven't done anything.
I do. I was gonna make like a online template of criteria, and it's like one of them, and that's the other one would be something the website.
Yeah, so it's started straight on the side and the angle on the street.
Okay, and then like where exactly, like.
It'll be your upper cabinet and your base cabinet.
So these two, and it's all the way around.
Try your best to follow the PDFs, because that should help you kind of determine.
Oh,
We need one key for elevation, one key for
So
section.
it'll look just like kind of nice, except you're gonna.
Easy. I'm done.
Okay, so it's a.
You'll still do that, and some of the others will have your clickable back.
Okay, so just fold.
You just have to place case for elevation and section on each side.
Yeah, but I,
I mean, I don't finish the hash mark, like, I don't, there's not a lot going on here. Oh, and annotate it.
And like drag like you're making a text box. And then add an arrow once you're done. I think a lot of you, somebody asked me last week, but I think a lot of you are having trouble with your text being gigantic. If your text on one of your details is like huge, you can change the type over here. So like right now it's set to a 1/4 inch Arial. You can just change it to something smaller. I think we use 3/32 normally. Or you can create another type if you need, like if it's still just giant for your type, you can change the size.
what was the thickness limit of the hatching?
The door is probably like a 1/2 inch.
Okay.
Plywood is typically 3/4 inch if it's like, if it's the body of casement, so it's like the back, the front, top of the shelf.
Okay.
It's typically 3/4 inch plywood, something like a door, where that's like more decorative, like the door is not like integral to the construction of it, right? That's like 1/2 inch. I'm not trying not to be picky about that.
Okay.
What are you doing to pay for your cabinet?
Yeah. So that's what. So you're gonna start like your counter, because you know where that is.
So how do I know? She's running to the bank.
I was like, she knows.
So you're not necessarily trying to match up like that, it's more about the thicknesses. So, a counter typically works like. Typically, a counter has like wood, like under it, so you don't have like the lip of the counter.
If they're not already in there. We're just going to fill them
The counter looks thicker than it is because it has that lip on it. And it's really sitting on plywood. Support it. So this might be 3/4 of an inch. And then your plywood is probably. So you just start from the top edge of your counter. And you go down 0.75 inches. And that's where you get the difference. And then you'll
So
make-
would this part be the counter part?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like, you
So
don't
this
need
is the actual part?
Yes. You don't need to worry about underneath. That's just your normal, right? Like, so go to like create a filter and use the different. And then measure from the top of your counter down 0.75.
Jump.
It was like leaning back and then that sound happened. I wasn't prepared to like fall out. I just okay. What's that like a time? It's 3, so maybe we could chat at like 3:30. So. Well. Oh, you are. All right. Fine, I'll just do it. Should I raise this? Oh, it's not separate. I didn't get these from them.
I can't see it.
I don't know how to do it.
I figured it out last year after so long.
So we don't want to go. We want to just start there, 75 down, but then go down.
Like
Does
that.
that make sense? So what I get here.
And then we just need to draw.
That makes sense of that, it's like,
Yeah.
So then they're on the back.
Oh, and
Every
Oh,
line.
It's like the fall, it's out there and then.
Yeah.
And then do I just make it the counter would be a different one, but if you want to do it again, because I haven't done my own. So I would start below the cabinet and just go all the way to this.
Whoa,
So just practically making like a really long.
I know, if your text box, then change your mind.
Probably not.
You can change it after.
If that's where your cabinet still is, then yes.
Check out.
Yeah.
And then
Well, that's like the token.
that's the last space.
Yeah. And we just go.
You can.
Oh,
edit
right
it.
there is good, yeah.
Well, maybe it does. If it's still too big, you can edit it. I can change it.
Okay. So other thing I was It's a good idea.
Yeah.
And like the materials we did at the time, you
It
go
looks
down.
like probably where someone is
You
turned
put
off,
there, right
maybe.
there, go down,
Or is it actually different here?
and you put And then you can draw the text. Oh, thanks, dude. Wow. We just have to make plywood. I think. Is yours gray like this?
It's not big.
It doesn't matter. Just gives
You
you
have
more of the
22
depth.
hours.
That's true.
Can you? Like it does this, and then if I try to, and this way your rooms.
Yeah.
And then I thought this was, I tried to. But like. So much stuff like this. They're there, we just. It's not like. Let's, can you just like select everything? Let's just. It's that.
There's a thing. It's like an A. and there's four different options.
Yeah. Like, think about all of the hatches you're drawing as like your building cabinet. So right now you have like a top and a shelf, but there's no like, there's no bottom for your cabinet. You need this, just this little lip. You know, if you think of like your kitchen cabinets, look when you go home, that's a good idea, actually. When you all go home today, go like, look at them with new eyes. And like feel like, you know, what happens on the bottom of the upper cabinet. Like there's a little lip that keeps you from seeing like the ugly underside. Like kind of looking at the shelves, like this is how this is built. So that little piece in the front, that's wall base, like this your cabinet sits on plywood, like with those two little locks are. Like a 2x4. And then I know. It's just like to show that the shelves. All those regions.
But it has to, how do we label this? Like it has like the part.
So really your lip is just like this one part. Right, let's go back to the picture. So like we're seeing the edge of the cabinet beyond. When you see like a thinner line like that, that just shows that that feels like that's on the other side.
Okay.
So this comes down to the front, there's like a lip. But then that's saying like there's Don't delete your cabinet. Because they still want to see the cabinet in like
I think you probably. But I'm not.
if you have a sink cabinet, make sure, like if that's the section you're cutting, make sure that your sink is still, like you want to see the basin of the sink, right? If you have a shelf, you might have a shelf here in the middle. Just depending on what's going on in your cabinet, you want to make sure that that's clear.
I have a question about, this is my baseboard. I couldn't think of the word. I was like, I don't know what it is.
Gotcha. It looks like you're using the cornice profile. That's
I
like default.
definitely did.
Okay, let me show you how to
Change it. I couldn't get it, but then I read your thing and
Gotcha.
when I did it in 3D view, it worked.
Okay. Have you downloaded the profile from Canvas? Revit doesn't have built-in like a rubber wall base, which is what you're using. It just has like woodworking kind of trim, which I don't want. Like this isn't
Yeah,
residential.
because I was like,
I don't know why you would.
I was like, that's a chunk of black. That's
Yeah.
like,
It's in the assignment to folder.
Yeah, what it's called.
This
Vinyl
is,
wall.
yep. So you will open that as a family in Revit. And then we'll just load it. We don't have to do anything to it. We just have to load it.
And well,
Once you get it loaded, we just have to select that as the profile in your like wall base. Use the second option. Yeah. Anytime it asks you that, just use the one that's like more prohibited.
The longer one.
Yeah. And then just say yes. So select your block. And then edit the type. Click duplicate. We're gonna just call it like wall base. And then where it says profile, we're gonna click in that box, and then now you should have an option that says like vinyl orange and vinyl 6 should be useful.
Yeah, vinyl orange. It doesn't matter.
No. And now it should change.
See, that looks good. Okay. Yeah, it's like, what the heck?
Sweeps are funny in Revit, and I always have the best luck placing them in 3D, but sometimes if it won't go, just try a different view.
Yeah, well, it was weird. Even like in 3D, like in order to get on the wall, I had to click like here.
Yeah, sometimes it just depends on the angle because it's kind of like Rhino is sometimes. I don't know if you like Rhino, where it looks like you're pointing here, but because of the view,
Yeah,
you're like
and then
actually
you
over
look
there.
at it in 3D.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, yeah, it's crazy.
I just kind of have to pan and then see where it will place it. Also, sometimes sweeps, I guess all the time, sweeps, for whatever reason, won't let you place it on both sides of the same wall. In the same, like, you know how you can click multiple walls in one sweep? If you try to click a wall, like I already have it on this side, on the other side, if you click it, instead of placing it on the other side, it will remove it from this side. It's like place, remove.
Yeah.
So I just exit out and then make a new sweep and then you can do it on the other side.
Okay.
I don't know why it's that way, it just does.
Yeah.
You would think they would fix that by now.
You would think.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I know I need to dimension in my notes, but is there anything else I need to add? I didn't know if I was supposed to do something else.
You just kind of
I think I do have like words here, so you would need to be like. Okay.
And then we'll just talk it out about like the counter. So in real life, the counters are not just right. They're more like, you know, this is the front edge of your counter. The right side, they're like this. We're looking at section here, so the wall. Oh, yeah, the plywood supports the counter.
I was like, is that slang?
You know,
Okay.
like something like
Now I'm like really invested in it.
it's strong, but if you like flex it, it's like right. So you put it on plywood to support it, attach it, because you can't screw into like marble either, right?
Okay.
So you have your plywood, you have a lip here that makes your counter look bigger, right? And it hides the plywood, because you wouldn't want to look at the other counter to like plywood. So this is like your countertop material.
Okay.
So this is probably 3/4 of an inch, and this is 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, so I would just go in and like cut into that right there.
You would just add like you just add a circle.
Okay.
Does anybody have any lingering questions about their like progress at 1 or 2? I think we've covered a lot of it, but
Oh, I have one more thing I need
Yeah.
help with, sorry.
no, that's all we're here for.
So, and I kind of, yes, of course, so my elevation.
The little lip.
I guess I could.
Is that like what you're doing now? Is that what you're watching?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite.
I was
Amazing
amazing.
because I feel like I was struggling.
I was doing private one and then.
Yeah, they got there.
They're like, that's a lot. Really?
It was like so exhausting. I'm like still like it's just no, it's not that. It's just like I like kind of laugh.
Kind of like if you're looking when it will place, I just changed the.
definitely like something.
I think it says above.
That's just not what I said. I'm sorry. That's what came off. That's not.
My thing is like higher.
Like you're in the.
But I've got that.
Yeah.
Almost above.
I know.
Like a toe. If your thing is actually. Like if it's just like suspended, then you don't have to.
It's really bad. It's really bad. It's like really
But my
bad.
thing, from the floor to my my cabinets just kind of squat.
Going through. Oh, goodness. Well, yeah, like really bad, like really bad. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, even. Yeah, like, like, when he was I just guess I thought. He tortured. Yeah, and like. When,
What's happening?
And I guess I didn't know it, like, I just was like, I mean, sure.
So, hey, Allie. Sorry. I think it helps if you kind of look at it a little flatter like that, and you might try zooming out a little bit. And then you know it's placing when it either gives you like that blue line or it shows you the preview. Sometimes it won't let you place it like near the bottom of the wall. Like, see how my preview goes away when I'm down here, but then it will give it to me up here. I'll just click up here. Sometimes it won't show it to you until you hit escape. And like, hang on, get out of the placement. Now it's here. You can come back over here and just change this to 0. So it'll like go back down to the floor if it's like way up high in your wall.
So if I don't see it, like that one that I just did.
No, who's telling me?
If you hit escape and you still don't see it, then I don't think it's there, but sometimes.
It's just like sudden. You just wouldn't understand. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know, he gets that, he gets it. He's such a like. And then he's like. And then he's like. What is this real? Sorry, I'm in the middle. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you. Which one? All that is. That is Revit? Almost, yeah. That would be.
I wanted to see. It's
Yeah, oh, I know. I know.
Well, I mean, that's not your fault, that's just like a model rate, but.
I know. And I was really
Like, I know. And I was like, do they hate me? I think it's weird for his mom to be so like, yeah. After literally all the time. Oh, you know, I don't know. But and then like just wonderful. And I mean everything was straight after. I mean, I mentioned there was no reason. Okay. And he like admitted that that was his mom.
I also want to be like the chapter that caused me to be on the road.
When I would have something about an exception.
Yeah.
I think like her it was so fast, like it only lasted 20 minutes. Like it didn't like
Because
he was hearing things.
I don't
I think he was like so like
I know to that.
I feel like when I drive, I think about there, but I have to go all the way to the right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What I was saying.
That's what we were gonna talk about.
And then he like
To get with the program, I was like,
sorry, like. He thought I was saying like I want a relationship with all my friends and like all my friends that we have shared like that's the best relationships and
You just can't have friends that.
Jenny's ex-boyfriend who a piece of shit.
wait, I don't understand how you got that.
I literally think like he like wow. Like I just and so I
I didn't
like
realize
I
I
was
was
like if you weren't fighting because like the thing is it's like it's as much as yeah I didn't get the same reason he's the reason I probably wouldn't be in such like our hobby goes here you know only last like 20 minutes like that was not that so that and then
I felt it.
I said to you like married
It's because, you realize that like.
and then he was like basically proving my point that okay like I'm proving your point like like we're I don't remember like I like the black I was trying to help him like it was just like so it was a lot it was just
No, you can't.
I wish I remembered my exams really bad. Like, I know how important my school is. I would never say it not be that.
No, I work.
I'm like a really good career. I'm just like I mean, it's not changes. I stop feeling, you know, and then like. And your new one's this one, yeah.
Why am I just hearing about all this stuff? So it's like,
Yeah.
you don't have to have all those just, but like,
Oh, you're wrong. And I tried.
Yeah,
Walked from Gatsby's to my apartment in the pouring rain. So I went to his house and then he like put on like.
Are those all?
They're all fine. So we were just like.
it would just happen.
Yeah.
So, I have.
Yeah. he came out and like, and then-
Yeah, I have clinic there.
If you want to.
Yeah, I know. Does anybody else have any questions right now? Don't forget about your like dimensions and your notes.
So basically, we're calculating this to look like ours. So it's not that hard.
It's not about like construction knowledge, it's just about like drawing them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
We're gonna.
oh, which is so long. Like I was so through. Oh my gosh, I think I have. I don't know. Wait, can I choose?
She's coming to hold there. Oh, you know.
But like, it's good. And he like. He from. Yeah, this one's a little.
Oh, okay.
Well, she probably. Yeah, but like. A lot of signs. I know. I know.
How did you, what did you try to say?
large one is. It's probably in the AC. Yeah. That would be such a. Yeah, I already know. Yeah.
And maybe let's do it.